Exercise 7. In this exercise, we will be adding an additional disk to our virtual machines. This storage differs from the one that already comes on your virtual machine because it's permanent. It's not ephemeral. So if for some reason the virtual machine just goes away or gets destroyed, the data will remain in place. The data that you put on this storage will remain in place. And also gives you the flexibility that if you want to upgrade your virtual machine, you can just attach this the existing data on the disk to to the new instance. So let's begin. I already created a couple of resources. Well, the code for it, just to save some time. I mean, the only stuff that I need to mention is I changing the allocation method to static, so we can see it on the output. And also this small change with the new azurerm provider. It used to be all lowercase. Now they are enforcing capitalization on the first letter. So that's the only change for this. Other than that, the rest is pretty much the same files, same stuff that we did before. So nothing new in here. So let's begin. Let's create a new file. I'm gonna call it manage disks.df. Let's start typing. So it is a resource azurerm. Oh no, space is lowercase. I mean underscore. Azurerm manage disk. And I'm gonna name it manage disk for the second part. Not too original, but it's fine. I'm not too creative with the naming conventions. Gonna include a depends on. You don't really need it. It's just for practice. Just for practice, so you get used to use it whenever is possible. Just to control the flow of execution of Terraform, of course. So will depend on the resource group. So this will get created after the resource group is already done. We're gonna do a for each, which we already saw this on a previous video, so nothing new in here. Var.vm size, and let's look at that one. So it's gonna create two of those resources. One is gonna be production, and the other one is going to be development. I'm not using the value for the key, just the key. At least not here. So let's go back to manage disk. Name var.resource underscore name each dot key. It has to be unique, so otherwise it creates conflicts. Like for example, the network interface has to be unique, each key. Otherwise, you can easily corrupt the whole thing if you use the same one for try to reuse it by mistake. So the same one goes for here for the managed disk. Location var.location. Resource group name, well, var resource name. You can call it using the module, I mean azurerm resource group .rg .name, or you can use the variable. I'm using the variable. I mean, it saves a little bit of time. Storage account type. Create option. In our case, it's going to be empty. We are not reusing an existing one. For reusing an existing one, your create option will be copy, and you will need to specify the resource ID, of course. What else? There is another option, import, for importing a BHD file for an image. To copy a platform image, you need obviously an additional parameter to make a reference to that resource ID, and restore from backup. All of them will require additional parameters to be included as well to make a reference of that particular resource ID. Since we are not doing that, we use empty, so we don't need to include those. Oh, I'm missing one more. The size. So disk size in gigabytes. Bar that. Storage size? Yeah, storage size. That's the one. And I think it's 160 gigs. Yeah, I'm using a default value here. So 160 gigs. Great. So we just define how to create, creating the disk. Now we are going to create another resource block just for attaching the disk to the virtual instance. So starts with azurerm virtual machine data disk attachment. Yeah, I think I got it right. Yeah. Disk attach. Okay. Depends on. In here is actually needed for. It's gonna depend on the Linux virtual machine. It needs to be created before, because it requires the ID of the resource. So what else? I want the managed disk as well. Managed disk. Managed disk. Manage disk ID will be azurerm managed disk. Each key, because we are creating multiple of those, so we need to know which one is the right one. That ID. Virtual machine ID. Pretty much the same. VM each that key that ID. Learn. This is this will determine. This is used to determine the order of how it's gonna get mounted into the virtual machine. It's the order of the devices. If you go in Linux, you have SDA, SDB, SDC, SDD, and so on. This will determine this order. If you have if you are attaching multiple disks to the same instance, the next one is going to be 11 in my case. I start with 10 because that's how it's in the example, but it doesn't need to be 10. Just keep in mind that you will need to increment that if you are attaching more than one. So that's something to keep in mind. What else? Oh yeah, caching. That's kind of important. We want to read and we want to write. We want to use the disk. It's empty, so. And that's it for manage disks on. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. So let's do Terraform init. Yeah, I don't think I'm missing anything. That should be it. So just Terraform init, validate, format, plan and apply. Okay, no errors so far. Let's see, validate. Ooh, validate. Okay, no errors according to validate. I'm not sure if that's true, but carry on. Out df plan. Okay, perfect. Terraform is gonna create how many resources? Oh, that's the output. 11. Okay, it's gonna create 11 resources. So Terraform apply df plan. I should start creating all the resources. And this time I'm gonna get the actual public IP for the output. Before I wasn't because I was using dynamic, but with static you can get it. So that's something that it can be useful if, especially if you are doing additional work post installation with Ansible. Let's say you want to format the disk and do more stuff with it. You will do it on Ansible. I mean, you can do it on Terraform with the provisioners, but I I rather do that kind of stuff with Ansible for sure. I mean, doesn't really Terraform doesn't really manage those kind of tasks too well, too graciously. So yeah, it's better if you do it with Ansible. So it's creating the virtual machine, and after that goes the attachment. Still creating. Okay. Creation complete for one, so we already have one virtual machine. That's great. The second one should be done in few more seconds. Okay, great. Now we have our public IPs without the need to rerun the plan again. So let's log in to one of them. Sure user 20.232.12.172. Oops. Perfect, we're there. Parte-L. Oh, yeah, of course, I'm not an administrator, but we can get that. So we have a. No, that's not it. That's not the one I'm looking for. This one is not. This is the ephemeral that you have in there. So it's the A. Oh, that is interesting. Let me do it again. So we have that one. We have the 100. I should have 160 in here, and I do not. Exercise 7. Development machine. Disks. It didn't. Oh, I know why. Yep, I didn't save the file. Save all. Save all. Okay, I don't need to. Well, yeah, I do. Exit. So let's run another plan. Yeah, that explains. Um, azurerm. Oh, I have a typo. Okay, well, no big deal. Line number 3, of course. G. That's it. That explains why I didn't have any typo. Of course. Of course. Ish key. Oh yes, absolutely. More typos. For each bar.pm size. Of course, that's why I'm making a reference of a key without specifying the actual dictionary. Yeah. Save all. And another validate. Now I feel better. Now I actually have errors. A lot of silly mistakes, but that's fine. Terraform apply dash out. Actually, FMT, so it looks pretty at least. Terraform plan dash out equals df plan. And now we're gonna get an actual disk. So okay, oh yeah, it's 240 to disk plus the attachments, so that's 4 resources. Let's look. Yeah, that's it. Okay, false. Right accelerator false. Oh, that's another option for performance. Yeah, we don't need that. Not for this exercise. At least Terraform apply df plan. So come on. Finally. See, it's creating those and doing the attachment. Great. Silly mistake. Didn't include the file. Perfect. Okay. So the IP should remain the same. 172. Yeah, of course. So now we should see a disk. Subparted. There you go. 172. I specified 60, but that's approximation. After formatting, it's gonna be much smaller. 160, closer to 160. Yep, that's it. SDV on. This is the ephemeral one. That's kind of the ordering got all messed up. It's usually SDA, the first one that goes on slash, but well, that that was a little bit odd, but it's fine. And this is the 100 gig ephemeral one, and obviously we are not seeing the one we just created because we haven't formatted we haven't done any partitioning and formatting on this, so we don't have a file system or anything to map to it. But that's about it. I mean, that's how you attach a volume on Terraform, using Terraform. And with that, we conclude this video, and happy terraforming.